Okay, so here's the bit that's missing from that video in terms of giving better feedback. Obviously, if you want like a mark out of 10 for each of the components of your assessment, then mark out of 10, 19. Then that's really easy to do. You don't need drop downs for that. You can also really easily calculate what that all adds up to because, hey, it's a spreadsheet program, so that's easy to do. If I wanted to just give a final mark out of 30, but that's not so good in terms of giving feedback to students about what they did. So you can write, I'm imagining here that I've got a composition task where I want students to compose in a mode. So, probably something like A Aeolian or C major, something like that. I want them to improvise a solo using that mode, and I want them to create a drum beat. And these things, these very specific things for the students might then relate to specific curriculum outcomes, but I don't necessarily need them to know that. So that's where the drop downs can be really useful because we can write more useful descriptors. So I can go into here and I can say, use the mode just to remind myself what this drop down is for. Give myself lots of width and I can say, you played some incorrect notes not in the A minor scale. Please revise that. Then I might imagine a student who got most of the notes wrong, but maybe just hit a black note somewhere accidentally. So I might say, you played mostly the right notes, please, but there were just a few notes not included in the mode. And then I could have another one that said your melody was made up entirely from notes in the mode. Well done. Okay, so then I can have like descriptors for whatever the next thing that I had. Oh, by the way, I just created a new sheet to put those things in. For the solo and for the drum beat, and these are a little bit vague, so I haven't really thought this through, but I would normally be quite precise about the language that I use in this. Then when it actually comes to doing the use the mode bit, what I do is that I go to my data tab and then I click the data validation button and I say that I want it to be a list. There we go. Haven't done this for a bit. And the source is going to be that list that I just created. So I don't need the use the mode bit. I just need these three. Obviously, if I wanted to have 5, 6, 7, 8 different options of really useful feedback, then I could have those there. Just press return. I don't think I need to change anything else. No. So click OK. And now when I go back to here, you can see that it is a drop down with those 3 options. And I can also pull that down to make that the option for, did that work? For everything, yeah. So now they've all got that drop down. So I can very quickly go and say, okay, Jane, she had a couple of notes wrong. John, he had, it was perfect. And Brian was perfect, but bananas just didn't really seem to get the mode thing at all. So definitely didn't meet that outcome. I can also have these things, obviously, as I said before, I can have those as like grade descriptors, like progressing, satisfactory, yada, yada. I just feel like the more actual specific feedback you can give, even though you're picking from options, the better. Then I can have the same for this. Then I can have the same this. Now, when it comes to working towards the report, so what I would do is, generally with assignments as I go, I wouldn't necessarily give them a grade, although I might do a satisfactory, progressing, exceeds expectations, or whatever descriptors are considered appropriate at your school. But what I'll usually do, as I said in the other video, is that I'll have a teacher mark, and that's based on whatever the kind of mark I have to give them in their report. So if it's a percentage, then I'll give them a number. And what I'll use, just so that I can justify my marks, like because this is 3 different levels here, if I've got to turn these into a percentage here, then I'll say, well, this one is worth, let's say they're worth 33 marks each. So the first drop down is worth 11, the second one's worth 22, the first one is worth all 33. So obviously that sounds a little bit arbitrary, but what it means is that I've actually got a number that I can justify exactly how I got there. Then if there's any question of like whether I've ranked students correctly or whether a student really deserves the high mark, then I can really justify it. The other thing that you can do, of course, is that you can what's the word, have different weighting. So for instance, if the main thing that you wanted them to learn, you know, that's quite a lot for a early year 7 class to do. So maybe the main thing I wanted them to do was just learn what the A minor mode sounded like, or what D Dorian sounded like, or something like that. So this might be weighted to say 75% of the mark, and these ones are only worth 12.5% of the mark. So I can weight them that way. And then I can calculate teacher marks in here. If I'm then doing the assignment, I might have, the report, I might have 2 or 3 assignments that I've done. And then I can do an average of the teacher mark, just using usual spreadsheet stuff. And that'll give me a report mark. So I might have a teacher mark here, another teacher mark here, and then an average of them, which gives me a report mark. So that's the first mark that they're actually going to see, because the teacher marks are just for me. And then I'm going to do the report comment. And my point about the report comment, the thing I'm saying about the report comment is I wouldn't automate the report comment as in drop downs like that, although there are some schools that will allow you to. So in that case, you could create a whole load of different report comment drop downs, either just in one thing, or you could have like one sentence times 3 or 4. So you pick a different drop down from each sentence. But I used to just simply, this was formulaic to me. So it was one thing the student did well, one thing the student could do better, and then how they could do that thing better. They were the 3 comments that went in. And obviously, if a student's just a total shining light, or I need to comment on something else, I would. But they're the 3 things I would do for every student. And then because you're doing this when you've just finished marking an assignment and you've just looked at that mark, it's really easy to write that report comment. Even if reports aren't due for another month, if I know, right, they've done the last assessment task, now I don't have any more marking to do on their work until reports are due. So as I'm marking this assignment, I'm going to mark the report, and then when that time comes around, bang, I can just export those out using the mail merge shown in the other video. That's it.